Hello and welcome to episode 1259 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Monday, February 19th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by both Justin Mason and Jason Collette. Gentlemen, it's been a while. How you guys doing?
I'm here. What more do you want?
It's an off day for you, so you
It's
got
an
to join
Anthony
us
Rendon
here.
joke. That's what it is
Yeah.
here for our boy. I'm here. What more do you want?
Justin, how are you?
I'm hoping I don't wash away because we were getting hit by another big
Monsoon.
rainstorm. Yeah, my office is once again got a moat around it, to the point where the pathway stones that I've put down are underwater, and so I actually have a board about probably about an 8-foot board going from my office
laying on top of them.
Yeah, to the foundation towards my home.
Just so you should get a kayak, dude. Just road.
I literally bought rain boots today on Amazon. Just I'm tired of having to change my socks and shoes.
Oh my God, yeah, there's nothing worse than wet socks. I feel bad bragging about 70 and sunny over here in Texas, but it's pretty nice here on this President's Day, and our first time all three of us together since the Arizona Fall League. And we got a lot of outfielders to talk about, so we're gonna do away with the niceties. We've been talking for about 20-30 minutes together offline, so we've said our pleasantries, but let's get into a couple bits of news. Justin, you and I hinted at this one last episode. In fact, we didn't really talk any Whit Merrifield because we knew or we had seen the news saying that he's going to sign over the weekend, so let's just revisit when he signs. I think it was even Friday evening after our show, we learned that he's going to Philadelphia, which is a move I like. I think that's a solid pickup for Philly. You know, I think he can be that Ben Zobrist super util type of guy where he's playing pretty much every day without a set position. Jason, let's start with you on Whit Merrifield here. What do you think of this in Philadelphia? Is he somebody that's on your board with this move, just dotting around the infield and outfield, or are you too worried about the playing time?
Put me in the latter column. I would say, part of this, and here's friend of a friend kind of thing. Mrs. Merrifield is due during the baseball season. So Mr. Merrifield may have wanted to stay East Coast so he could be close to home because he does live here in North Carolina. There's that, because otherwise I don't really get this for him. It's a 1-year deal. Maybe he's looking at, hey, look, man, this is my last year. I'm chasing a ring. Yeah, it's a good team. I'm chasing a ring. He doesn't need to play every day. And if he does, he has the options. Maybe he can get some of that left field playing time with Marsh out and whatnot. So other than that, I don't think this helps his fantasy value. I get it from his perspective, but fantasy-wise, I think this actually dings him a bit.
I will say at pick 278, it's not a terrible price, even with this move and the fact that he does not have a guaranteed spot. But I do think he really will dot around the field, kind of give everybody a day off here and there, and still start 5-6 times a week pretty consistently. And like you mentioned, Marsh might be missing some time at the front end of the season, which would put Merrifield in left at least to start the year. Justin, do you see a similarly here with Whit Merrifield and where you at on the 278 price point? He has second in outfield right now, by the way.
Yeah, I tend to kind of agree. I think he's in a short side platoon with Marsh, and then on the days where he's not the platoon partner, he's just kind of, giving other guys days off. Giving Rojas.
You taking him there?
Probably not.
Okay. I mean, it's like, I think he's kind of a need type guy. If you need kind of the speed focus there, he got his groove back on the bases, back up to 26 last year after just 16 in 2022 for Whit Merrifield with 11 homers. Get that little sprinkling of pop, but batting average and speed are what you're getting here. If you need it at that point in the draft, I think that's when you land on somebody like Merrifield. But other than that, I don't know that he's somebody that you seek out because, like Jason said, it's not going to be full-time burn out there unless somebody gets hurt.
Of the 20 projected starters in the division, obviously not including the Phillies, 9 of them are lefties.
Okay, so that's beneficial.
So that's not bad.
And like you said, ring chasing. And I don't say that as like a negative, but trying to be on a good team. He did his time in KC.
It's a great thing for Philadelphia.
I love it for Philly. Yeah,
gives them
to have a guy like this on your bench.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I love it for them. It's just that it doesn't really raise his profile for Merrifield. Yeah. So we're all kind of like tepid on him. We would take him maybe in the right situation, but we're not seeking him out. Totally fine with that. Let's move over to Boston. They went ahead and signed Liam Hendriks. Now, I wonder if this is going to facilitate another move, which is the departure of Kenley Jansen, and so that Hendriks can close. I don't really know. Without that, though, I don't know how interesting this is for Hendricks to go to Boston. Justin, what did you think when you saw that Hendricks going to sign a 2-year deal with Boston? Were you thinking right away, okay, Kenley's gone, or what a great setup man for Kenley?
Well, I think that Kenley is gone. I think he probably would have already been traded if not having developed some sort of lat issue. In after reporting, they're not super worried about it, but I think they're just waiting for him to be kind of officially healthy and throwing again, so that way they can try to maximize value. They've already told multiple teams that they want to trade him, but they also don't want to take on any of the money, so they're pretty much going to give him away, probably to the Dodgers or someone like that.
They'll get a small like long shot type of piece back.
But I also don't think that Hendricks is going. I think I saw he's not even going to be ready until July. So this is more.
Oh, is it that long? Okay, so this is more for 25.
This is remember when Ken Giles?
Correct. Yep.
Signed. So
that worked out well.
Yeah.
Okay. His TJ was in August. Okay, I thought it was earlier. So scratch what I said there.
This is
even if Kenley's gone, this does not open up anything for Hendricks. I had the wrong time frame on him.
In the Barf League draft, I took Kenley because he fell all the way to the 16th or 17th round.
Holy crap!
Based on the lat issue, I guess. He was just sitting there, and I was just I need a second closer. I don't really want Kenley, but at this point, screw it, So I also drafted in the 29th round. I drafted Chris Martin. Because I think Chris Martin. Yeah, I think Chris Martin's the next guy up. So if Kenley does get traded,
draft board too.
Yeah. If Kenley does get traded, I think Chris Martin's probably the guy who takes that job, at least in the short term. So.
He went in the 17th round. He was at the end of the 8th round in Wharf.
At the end of the 8th round.
A little injury news is that devastating for Kenley. That's kind of wild because anywhere he goes, we would expect that Kenley's still going to close, right?
I'm double checking exactly where I.
Well, while you're doing that, I would say the other piece of this is a 2-year deal, but let's not forget the Jansen and Martin are both free agents after this season. They're both in the final year of their deal. So this is really
the 11th round, actually.
11 still.
That's still a nice that's still a nice discount.
It was still a good 30-40 picks after his ADP. So I was
but this is a 2025 play for Boston because their two back end relievers are both gone after this season. And they're fungible assets, and maybe they'll go find another one. But I'm looking at their future payouts. And no, they don't really have anybody else. Everybody else is pre-arb. And unless they decide they're going to shift Garrett Whitlock back in that, if one of those or Tanner Houck, one of those guys plays himself back into relief, this is it.
I think Whitlock's the one to look for. If Jansen goes and then Martin rumors strike up, then I do start to look at Garrett Whitlock again as the potential closer. That's where I would be. But that's probably down the line. I think they're probably going to give Martin some runway here to build up his value even further as a closer and maybe trade him at the break. Because like Justin said, if they're not going to take any of Jansen's money, then they're not getting shit for him. But Martin, you can build up his value as a closer, let him, build on what he did last year and then actually get something legit for him. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. A couple other bits of news. Xander Bogaerts moving to second base, so he'll add that eligibility pretty quickly in season. Is that doing anything for you, Justin, with regards to his draft value? Obviously at shortstop, we like him there, just fine, but he's going to add that second base, like I said, very quickly, depending on what your league requirements are. Does that move Bogaerts up at all? He's the 13th shortstop off the board right now, which I think is a really good value.
Yeah, I think it's a good price already. And now you add in the fact that, at his ADP, he would be the 10th second baseman. So I gotta kind of love that, honestly.
I'm with it.
Because I feel like right at that spot. So, I think there's a big drop off in terms of kind of overall talent between kind of 9 and 10. So if you're now slotting Bogaerts in, now there's a little bit of, and I think there's an argument to put Bogaerts over a guy like Bryson Stott, right? I think absolutely 4 is just so safe. Plus, you get all-around production. So I haven't been a Bogaerts guy for the last couple of years, but I think this is the first year I'm kind of coming around to it.
Yeah, I like this situation. Jason, you co-sign that with Bogaerts adding second base eligibility?
Yeah, I do love that, just that extra bit of bump, getting that second, the fact that he'll have shortstop and second here by 10 games into the season. That'll be nice. I'm trying to looking at pair, like even if we stay for the guy he's being shifted over for. I mean, Kim's going his ADP in February is 86, and Bogaerts is 112, and their overall projections by ETC are not that far apart.
Yeah, and I love Kim, and I can't really co-sign them being that far apart, because I'm also a big Bogaerts fan. So if I'm looking at those two, and I understand Kim has the triple eligibility, which helps, but now you're giving the second piece of that eligibility to Bogaerts. I'm just gonna pass Kim and wait for Bogey at this point. I love Kim. We've been advocating for him from day one. We kind of took a bath on that in year one, but since then he's been pretty solid. Had the breakout year this past season. I do like him, but now I think the price has gotten a little bit too high on Ha-Seong Kim. I'm definitely going to wait for somebody like Bogaerts there at pick 110, and I don't think that this second base eligibility is going to greatly raise his price. I think it'll barely move it, to be quite honest. I think he's kind of planted where he is on the draft board, and I'm good with that. All right, last bit of news, and it'll be a good transition for us into the outfield here. Randal Grichuk signing with Arizona. He's coming off a solid year as a right-hander. He seems like somebody who's probably going to be in a short side platoon for the most part, but that's what we're looking at right now. He can kind of be the perfect pairing with somebody like a Jock Peterson, who they brought in. Alec Thomas, I don't think that they would platoon directly, because Grichuk shouldn't be playing center, but you could then move Carroll over because Carroll's going to play both ways. If you want to get Alec Thomas out against lefties and get Grichuk some right field plate appearances that way. So I think it's going to be mostly short side with the occasional start against righties. Any deep league interest in Grichuk, Jason?
Not really, only because, it gives him this is one of these better baseball move than fantasy baseball move. Yes. The $2 million, it kind of tells you where they value him. Yes, we need somebody to hit lefties when Jock Peterson can take a seat, and it gives them a better insurance policy in the outfield, because before that, when you look what they would have had is Jake McCarthy, who was all over the place last year, Pavin Smith, who they've given plenty of chances to, and then Jorge Barroso. These are the guys that were on the 40-man roster at outfield. So they needed another guy like this, and to have this experience, this would help Arizona. I don't see how this is really a much of a play in a standard 30-round draft. But if you're still doing draft and holds, yes, this could be something that can materialize later on.
That's exactly where I see it. I co-sign all of that. Justin, what say you about Grichuk? Anything different from what Jason just said there? Can you guys change your fucking names? You both got similar names. I'm going to mess them up all episode here. But Justin, do you see anything differently here on Grichuk?
Nope.
All right, well, then let's use that to jump into the outfield, finish up this preview here. Let's start with mid to late round upside. Again, we're using ADP since January 15th. It was about 41 drafts when I did the data. There's more now. The ADPs haven't changed that much. It's the general area, so don't worry if they're a little bit off from what you're seeing on the ADP site. But I like these mid to late round upside guys here. Henry Davis, who's also going to get catcher eligibility this year, 233. Gavin Lux, 266. We discussed him a bit at second base, but would love to get Jason's thoughts. Brian De La Cruz at 276. Nelson Velasquez at 280. Parker Meadows, 282. Sal Frelick, 286. And MJ Melendez at 287. With Henry Davis getting the catcher, I believe, Justin, you and I did talk about him at catcher. So we'll start with Jason here. Are you intrigued by Davis going back behind the dish? Is he somebody that's on your board as like a sneak catcher because you're going to add that eligibility 10, 15 games into the season, depending on what your league says for Davis? What do you think?
He keeps going. Every time I'm in a draft, he keeps going higher. That said, in WARF, he did go 23 spots after his ADP. That's really the first time, because the other times I had been in, people have been jumping him up. They've been drafting him and then taking some second catcher super late.
Yep.
And that's the strategy to play out. It's like, if you're going to do that, then take Yan Gomes really late, because that's a nice safe play with that. And so that's really the route I would go. But anytime you can have I know we were at this last year, like, oh, Dalton Varsho, let's push him up. And that didn't really work out so well. But you don't have to make this huge jump to get to Henry Davis. This is a guy, ADP-wise, is still in the low 200s. Now, if it starts creeping up towards 200 or inside the top 200, then I just may as well take another different.
Then I tap the brakes a little bit, because we didn't see much in the 62 games from Henry Davis. I still have some love for him. I think, like, if people want to push off of him too harshly off of 255 plate appearances, I will bite. But I'm with you. If this starts pushing the ADP up, then I would have a problem with it. But for now, mid 200s type ADP for Henry Davis, I'm in on that. Justin, I can't remember what we said at the catcher preview, but anything different here on Henry Davis right now? Is he on your board at all?
I mean, he's on my board, but I think the problem is, like one of your favorite articles in terms is, wide awake sleepers. This is a wide awake sleeper. Like this is a sleeper that now everybody has talked about so much that he's actually pushed up into a place that I don't know that he's actually worth what we're going to start paying for him pretty soon. I mean, he's already going in front of Shaylin Galeers. He's going in front of Danny Jansen, going in front of Alejandro Kirk. I'd probably take all those guys as my second catcher over him. So
I think they're all kind of right there. I'm still big on Kirk. I think he's the guy that's kind of getting really pushed down due to what he did last year or didn't do, as it were. And I'm willing to take that shot.
Yeah.
I'm pretty interested in Alejandro Kirk on the bounce back there. So
I am too in that regard. I would say part of the issue with Kirk is just the presence of Jansen too.
Exactly,
and that's what's really hurting his, because we know what he can do with the bat and whatnot. But Jansen's in a walk year. He's going to want to play. I'm honestly surprised he's still there. That they haven't been able to make a trade.
I thought they might consider moving one of them because it is hard to play your backup catcher at DH every day. And now that Justin Turner's there, they're not going to do that. So it is going to be back to a split between Jansen and Kirk. And I wonder if they wonder though, like toward Kirk,
like how much DH. I mean, I assume that Turner will get a good amount of DH time, but like they've never filled that second base spot. Like how much second,
when they did that, it was like
how much second base does Turner play this year?
Yeah, we got Kevin Biggio and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at second and third for them. Can Biggio even bounce over to third? I'm actually not familiar with his defensive profile, but
I'm sure he could
open up that second base for
Turner's
Turner.
Played third, the majority of his career. He's played second base in recent years. Like, I just wonder, okay, maybe I think everybody kind of just thought, Turner is just penciled in as the DH because that's what he mostly did last year, right? Yeah. And I'm wondering, with them
maybe not.
Unless Chapman gets re-signed, I wonder if Turner is going to actually play the field a lot more than we expect.
Well, that would certainly help those catchers.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is maybe they can spot play Turner if it's a fly ball pitcher and be like, okay, fine, go to second base. Or because I mean, the Red Sox even used him at second base a couple of times last year. But on a certain pitcher types, put him in the field. So it may be a tough hill to get to 10 games, but if you're in a 1-game qualifying league, a 3 or 5, keep that.
Turner could end up with triple eligibility as the season goes on. That's a good call.
In Yahoo, he's eligible everywhere.
Yes, because he hit a double last year.
So we're actually going to talk about that here in a minute, and I'm going to say something that is going to shock both of you.
Oh God, I don't know what that's going to be. Is this with regards to Gavin Lux?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of Gavin Lux, I'm very excited about him. I'm fully back in. I was in on him as a breakout last year. I was devastated when he ripped his knee and missed the whole year, but he's back. I think, all systems go again. I think at pick 266, I can take the gamble. We did discuss him at second base, said most of these same things. So, Jason, where are you at on Gavin Lux? Did you like him last year? And if so, are you buying back in this year?
Yeah, I liked him last year, and it hurt. Literally, I think I
had him in 3 leagues.
The day before. Day before he got hurt. So with me, I know that Roster Resource has Lux in a platoon hitting 9th, but to me, it's like maybe they're gonna have to juggle this platoon and getting back to the type of pitchers, because Chris Taylor can play shortstop, but he has no range, but he can throw. And Gavin Lux has plenty of range. Well, pre-injury, we don't know what he looks like now, but he had plenty of range pre-injury, but he doesn't throw well. So if they could put those two bodies together, they would have a great shortstop. So for me, I don't know if it will be a strict platoon righties versus lefties types of situation, because they're going to win 116 games, let's just say. But they defensively, maybe they can take the L here and see what happens. But I feel Lux is going to play more than the 462 plate appearances that Jason Martinez has him down for right now.
Yeah, I think he's going to play as much as his body will allow. If the knee's ready, good to go. Obviously, he suffered it in spring, so he's had a full year to recover. We'll monitor him in spring, but at pick 266, I'm taking that gamble on Lux, and I do think he's one of those guys though that he comes out, starts swinging in spring, looking good. Price is going to go up. Yep, and I'm willing to pay a pretty decent price still with Lux, but if it gets crazy, my cutoff point is probably if he starts getting like mid 100s. I don't know if I'd be paying. I mean, it would depend. It would really depend. I really, really have been a big Lux fan for quite some time. Justin, anything to add with him? We did discuss him at second base, so I'm sure you probably got your thoughts out there, but anything to add with Lux? Wait, did you say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Lux.
We've just been big fans of his, so I probably don't need to rehash all of that. Let's move to Brian De La Cruz out in Miami. Had some kind of sleeper flavor last year. There's people talking him up. He put up a decent season. It was a full season. So if you drafted him, you got that volume, 626 plate appearances, 19 homers, 4 steals with a 257 average. Not bad. He's a later round pick. It really wasn't killing you. Didn't quite have the full breakout, but I do like seeing somebody take that first full season, right? Whether it's a pitcher making the 30 plus starts or the hitter getting the 145 plus games. That's always impressive. Now 27. Curious if there's another level here, Justin, or if Brian De La Cruz just is kind of a solid-ish league average bat that can kind of replicate what he did last year. Do you see more for him, or he is 27, so it's magic year. Never mind, automatic breakout coming, age 27. But no, do you see more for Brian De La Cruz, or is he just kind of is what he is here?
I think he is what he is, and I think he's also a guy who could lose playing time because he's not great defensively, and below average league contact. There isn't a lot of power in the bat. Max exit velocity was like 109. I got asked about him in my chat earlier today, and I said, yeah, it's just not that interesting to me. Not a guy I'm targeting at all.
Yeah, Jason, anything on Brian De La Cruz? The WRC plus totals are dropping, but that's as the playing time's rising. So that makes sense. Like I said, add it all up, it's exactly 1,200 plate appearances of a 98 WRC plus. So he is kind of that solid-ish league average guy. Do you see anything more or just more of the same?
Honestly, more of the same. I was looking at it. So it's like ATC has got him projected for 20 homers, 70 RBIs, 5 steals, 265 average. Yet he did go undrafted and morph this weekend, but somebody took Giancarlo Stanton. It's like, so I just bring that up because all the flaws with Stanton, who's projected for roughly the same thing, 27 homers, 71 RBIs, and a 227 average. Stanton's still getting drafted just outside of 300, and De La Cruz is going later. So if you are like, oh, I need to take a late power stab on the cheap, this is dirt cheap. Like he didn't even make it into a 30-round draft. So you can try here with that instead of like, oh, do I really want to go down the Stanton wormhole again? Because every year we all keep thinking it's going to be another 50 home run season. Because yes, every now and then he still hits the absolute snot out of a baseball.
That's what I was going to say. He can still absolutely crush the ball, but for how long? Like, what are you going to get? If you just want the set it and forget it kind of boringness, that is De La Cruz. And again, I don't really necessarily see a huge upside.
Oh, I got one for you here because Justin, you said you were going to say something to piss off, and so I'll say this. Look at the ATC projections for Brian De La Cruz and Kerry Carpenter. Put them side by side. They are within 3 home runs, 3 RBIs, 8 points of batting average, and 3 runs. And yet Kerry Carpenter is being drafted 233.
If I'm being honest, as much as I loved Kerry Carpenter last year, I have kind of moved off of him a little bit this year just because the price is way up and I'm not sure that I see a major jump forward. So I've actually been, he's one of those guys and it stinks. I talked about this in my busts write-up with Joe Ryan. It's always tough to move off a guy you loved when their price gets to a point that you're just not that interested. And I'm kind of there with Kerry Carpenter. 227 is not egregious. And in fact, the draft, whichever draft I have selected here, I don't know which one, Justin drafted him at pick 249. I think it was probably first pitch Arizona one, but that's fine. Yeah. It's just, I'm not like super giddy for him anymore the way I was last year when I saw the breakout potential, which he hit. It was great. And he was super cheap. So yeah, I it's funny you bring that up because like, yeah, I understand that. Justin, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that one of the things to remember too with De La Cruz is that he is the only outfielder other than Jazz Chisholm on the projected 26-man roster with an option. So, the entire bench is out of options.
Yep.
So I think if
and they're not going to send out Jazz,
and Jesus Sanchez is out of options, so like if someone is going to get sent down because someone in AAA is hitting well, or they want to bring someone else in, Brian De La Cruz is the one losing his job, and again, not good defensively, and he's not like a huge plus bat either.
Yeah, with two options, if he got off to a bad start or something. Thankfully, though, he is cheap. Like Jason pointed out, didn't even get drafted in the 30-rounder. So if he's your guy, you can get him on the cheap and see what's what.
We talked last episode about, Jesus Luzardo being kind of a piece that Baltimore was looking at. Kowser coming over, something like that. Like all of a sudden, Brian De La Cruz is out of job.
Absolutely. I'm telling you that they would be such a good matchup for a trade there for sure. Let's talk Nelson Velasquez. Pick 280 for KC. I believe all three of us were there when he was raking at Fall League a couple years ago. And, he had a nice little showing last year. Definitely garnered some fans there with the 17 homers in 53 games. It is kind of that all or nothing pop. It's not even 3 true outcomes, though, because he doesn't walk. It's the two true outcomes, strikeout or homer. But, Justin, let's start with you on Velasquez. Are we going to see something here after the trade from Chicago to KC? He did pretty well, but are you taking that all or nothing power at pick 280 for Nelson Velasquez?
Probably not. Like, I don't think it's like, at least it hasn't.
He can't be their next Jorge Soler. Getting him from the Cubs, huge power. I'm making a light link here. I want to be clear.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're talking about a guy with like a 300 on base percentage. And,
that's
it's not like he doesn't have Jorge Soler type power. Like, he is not the type of guy that like, oh, I could see 45 home runs. I don't even really see 30 or maybe. I think
I could see 30 if they committed to him, but you'd have to tell me that he's getting 600 plate appearances, and I just don't.
The max exit velocity is like 111, which is like right around league average. Like, there's not that much power in it. I think this was just a really hot stretch where he was seeing the ball. He was,
32% homer to fly ball to underscore.
Yeah, like he just got really, really lucky. Like, my guess is low 20s home runs and like 500 plate appearances. It's fine, but nothing that I'm jumping off the page for.
Let's be clear, though. He doesn't have to keep this clip to do something for Velasquez, because this is a 57 home run clip over 600 plate appearances. So it can be a lot worse than this. But I agree. It's bland. It's empty. There's just other guys I want. It's still in the top 300. We're going to talk about a billion more guys here today that I'd much rather have. Anything to counter that, Jason, or can we move on from Velasquez?
Nothing really to counter, other than there were several names that we're going to talk about later that I'm like, I'd rather have him over Velasquez.
100 picks cheaper for some of them.
Yep.
Parker Meadows. You mentioned the Tigers there with Kerry Carpenter. What about Parker Meadows, brother of Austin? Came up, did some things, definitely garnering some attention on the fantasy landscape, especially as the Tigers are a little bit of a sneak appeal pick for some folks. Going to be leading off for that squad. Had 3 homers, 8 steals in his 37 games. Only hit 232, but I love the 331 OBP. I love that, almost 100 points split between the average and OBP. You're talking like 250, 350. And I would really be interested in that from Parker Meadows atop the order here. Can he be a solid double-double type of guy here with like 15-15, which is kind of where the projections are with him, Jason? What do you think of Parker Meadows with Detroit?
Yeah, I do believe he can be that guy. I mean, that plate discipline's in the bloodline, just like his older brother. Same type of thing. Very disciplined hitters. I'm just concerned. I mean, Paul, are they really going to put Meadows and Green 1-2 and just leave those guys up there? Like that? But is there another option for them to have a right-handed hitter to break those two up, or is that going to be it?
I think unless you put Torque at 2, it's the double lefty, which is tough, but I think you got to go with it. Torque at 2 would be fine, but I think they see him as more of that traditional number 3 guy. So I think they are going to go left, right. And then you got Carpenter there as the lefty as well. So you got 3 lefties in your first 4. And then you kind of start getting the mix match the rest of the way down. So it's the only part where you have 2 of the same handedness in order. So it's not that bad from that standpoint. And those top 5 hitters there actually throw in Keith too. The top 6 in this order could really be interesting with Meadows, Green, Torque, Carpenter, Canha, and Keith. As a Tigers fan, I'm pretty excited about those top 6. Now, don't ask me about the bottom 3 because it's not very good.
Rogers in 2 leagues as my second catcher.
Rogers is a fine second catcher, 9 hitter to just get 18 homers or whatever. But I would say Baez and McKinstry, they ain't doing it for me.
The upside of having those 2 lefties, this may actually help Parker Meadows steal a few bags with that lefty in the box. Well, if Meadows is on base, that means the catcher is going to have to adjust a little bit. So if anything, that may actually help him. I do like Meadows.
Green can kind of hide him, let him get a bigger lead there. So bat and lefty there, kind of block off the catcher from seeing him. Do you like Meadows at all, Justin?
Oh yeah, I like Meadows a lot. If and when I do my this year's Cedric Mullins / TJ Friedel article, I think he is that guy. Like I
love it.
There's power, there's speed. 87% zone contact is above league average. Leading off for the Tigers, yeah, Parker Meadows is one of those guys that I think for me is a bit underrated right now.
Yeah, and I think at pick 282, not a difficult place to pull the trigger and really get some upside there. And even if it doesn't quite come together the way all 3 of us are hoping, it's not killing you. So solid pick there. Parker Meadows should end up on our squads across the 3 of us a decent bit, it sounds like. What about Sal Frelick? Kind of cuts a little bit of a similar figure where he's got a little bit of punch, also some speed. Currently penciled in as a number 3 hitter, which is kind of interesting. I don't know that he strikes me as a number 3 type, but also, takes the walks, had a 13% walk rate in his 57 games with the Brewers last year, 3 homers, 7 steals. I think that was exactly what I said Meadows had. So they really do kind of cut a similar figure here. The 24-year-old Sal Frelick, Jason, with Milwaukee, playing time should be there. If he's healthy and doing his thing, I don't see any reason that he can't play consistently. He'll probably lose out some lefty time to somebody like Joey Wiemer, which doesn't really bother me when somebody's a strong side platoon, particularly at pick 300 or 300-ish, 286 here. Do you like Sal Frelick at all, Jason?
I just don't see him as a 3 hitter. I don't know what this
that I don't see, but let's not get hung up on that.
Yeah,
let's switch him with Chourio. Put Chourio 3 and then Frelick 7. If he's batting lower third, do you like him?
Not really. I don't even like him in the upper third, to be honest with you. I just don't see that. I like I like that he can run and that he has got, he makes some contact. I just don't see him. If he starts 3, I can see him playing his way out of 3. Maybe this is just my way of like, what the hell is Milwaukee doing this year? I truly don't understand. They've got this great young core of talent on the hitting side and on the pitching side. It's ugly. Ugly.
By the way, it won't matter for this year. That's why I really didn't feel like we had to get to it. But they re-signed Brandon Woodruff to a 2-year deal, so he'll rehab with them and then be back next year. Garrett Mitchell's somebody who's going about 100 picks later that I think I just prefer. Like, I'm not anti-Frelick, but why wouldn't I just wait 100 picks for Garrett Mitchell and take that shot? They're not the same. It's not a 1-to-1, but I'll take the discount and take my shot with Garrett Mitchell. And I think he's got maybe a better speed profile there. Justin, where do you stand on these 2? Let's kind of bring them together here, and then we can skip Mitchell in the later tier that he's in. And actually, you know what? Bring in Joey Wiemer too, because he's at pick 512. Where do you stand on these 3 in general in Milwaukee, Justin?
Okay, so you guys are sleeping on Sal Frelick. So
okay, put us on.
He is playing second and third base in spring training this year.
Oh, is that the guy that you were?
No, this is not. This isn't the guy.
Oh, this isn't even the tidbit. Yeah,
the guy's the next guy that we're gonna.
Oh, okay, about. Okay.
But he's got. I mean,
that's intriguing.
Yeah, he's got probably below league average power, right? 106 max velocity is not good at all, but he can steal bases. They like him a lot, and he is going to likely pick up either second or third base eligibility in season early on. Give that to me all day. He's been a huge target for me around this spot.
That changes my opinion too. If he's going to be an infielder, then that profile looks better.
It really does.
3 hitter. But that profile looks better if he's playing in the infield versus the
especially outfield. On a team that has shown that they like to run, right? Like talking about a guy who could probably have, 10 to 12 home runs, 25 stolen bases, be double or triple eligible infield and outfield, which we always love, especially if he picks up both second base and shortstop, or second base and third base eligibility. Then you got a guy who could play second, third, outfielder, corner, middle. I love that. I think this is
put a pin though. Guy. We should put a pin in a team that likes to run because it's a new manager. Craig Counsell loved to run. Pat Murphy.
True.
Now, Pat Murphy is the guy who said, "Hey, Sal, I want you to work with Dustin Pedroia, and I want you to work on becoming an infielder." So it's like Pat Murphy's taking that chance, but new manager. And I would say this also applies to Cleveland with Stephen Vogt. We don't know what Stephen Vogt wants to do. Terry Francona and Craig Counsell were two managers that love to run, and now we've got two rookie managers who may not have the same kind of lead foot.
It's really intriguing, though, on Frelick moving to the infield because, things really start to get crowded there in the outfield. Chourio should be up from day one with his contract signed. Of course, you got Yelich. Garrett Mitchell has a big-time glove. Joey Wiemer, who I really like. We got him penciled in as a short-side platoon. I don't know. I feel like he can kind of break through from that and do more, especially if they're moving Frelick to the infield. That creates more of an opportunity for Wiemer because then you can go Yelich DHing and you can go Mitchell, Chourio, Wiemer in the outfield and get some really strong defense between the three of them. And then if you got Frelick over at second, which, by the way, the latest Mining the News from Jeff Zimmerman said Bryce Terang could start in the minors.
Yeah, that's
where Frelick's
one of the fallouts.
Playing time could come from too. So
I still think that they move Adonis at some point. So
I agree. It just might not be before the season starts.
Yeah.
And then you go Ortiz over at short, and then Terang and Frelick could both play on the infield at that point.
Yeah.
What about Wiemer and Mitchell, Justin? Are you in on either of them? They're much cheaper. $378 for Mitchell, $512 for Wiemer because he's penciled in as a short side guy. Where do you stand on those two?
Yeah, I think I'm more interested in Mitchell. The power speed combination in that bat, I think, is pretty tantalizing. And it's got to stay healthy, obviously.
He had the big injury last year that cut him down after just 19 games. But great defender, though.
There's just so many bodies. And until they make some moves or we know who's going to actually make this team, especially with Chourio likely making the team after the contract, it's just hard to know which one of these guys is going to get 500 plate appearances. I think Frelick's one of those guys, but I don't know if Mitchell or I definitely don't think Wiemer is. Unless there's an injury, unless there's a trade. I think
Wiemer
both
got
those
410
guys.
last year. Now part of that was Mitchell getting hurt.
Yeah, Mitchell getting hurt.
He only put up a
Tyrone
75
Taylor
WRC plus. Yeah, so there were injuries there that facilitated that, and unfortunately, Wiemer did not take full advantage of it with a pretty rough season. Yeah. But I still remember him from Fall League, and I remember our friend Jason Gray talking about how he plays like his hair is on fire. He's got loud skills. We did see that with the 13 homers, 11 steals, but like I said, 75 WRC plus is pretty rotten, so that's tough. Yeah. Anything for Wiemer or Mitchell, Jason, as we move on here?
I would say with Wiemer, the funny thing is all those tools in that 75 WRC plus is because he was wretched against righties. Hit 175, slugged 291.
And that's where the short side platoon threat really comes in. If he doesn't show improvements there, he really is going to be a short side guy. But that's baked into the price, $512.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting, right? You're getting somebody that's at the very end of your draft and hold, maybe a watch list guy in standard 30.
But defensively, he's fantastic. You go look at the StatCast profile; it's like all of this giant red in all of the defensive measures, and offensively, it's the exact opposite because he was abysmal against right, and that could get better. I mean, there's no way a guy gets this kind of prospect grade if he's this bad against righties. It's just
exactly
baptism by fire last year, and he got burnt. So at that price, draft and holds would love to get back in, but I don't need to go reaching down that far in a 30 team, 15, 30 round, 15 team draft yet. But it's definitely somebody I would add to my watch list.
Put him on the watch list. And then like Justin said, when the playing time starts to shake out, if we see some positivity for Wiemer, we can maybe make him an early pickup or some sort. Yep. Let's move over to Melendez in KC here. And Justin, let me just turn it over to you. You wanted to say something about him. What's up?
Still catcher eligible in Yahoo.
No way, dude.
Yeah. Played 10 games at catcher last year, still catcher eligible. If you use Steamer's projection in the auction calculator, he's the 5th catcher in projections.
Nice.
Okay. I mean, that's
because he's going to get 600 plus plate appearances in the outfield. Now, obviously, if you're not playing in Yahoo, he's not catcher eligible. I still think people are sleeping on him, though. Like last year was kind of a weird transition year where he had to move to the outfield full time. He's learning a new position. I still think there is, plenty of potential in his bat. I think he's really, really underrated this year.
I actually did have that in the back of my brain. In my catcher write-up, I did put he only had 10 games at catcher, so he didn't qualify everywhere, but sign me up where he does.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, Melendez. We talk about it all the time. Non-catching catchers, they're a favorite. I was big on the Varsho thing last year. It didn't quite pan out, but he still had enough power speed as like a second catcher.
2016, like as a second catcher,
it was still fine. It was a bad batting average, but that's usually what you get out of a second catcher anyway. So
16 stolen bases from the catcher position last year for Varsho. Like I'll take that all day long.
Absolutely, and we both like him as an outfielder this year too. Melendez. Jason, anything there for you? Even if he's not catcher eligible, let's say in standard leagues where he's not, do you like him to kind of do some things this year? He's going to play every day, had 602 plate appearances last year. Can he do more than kind of the league average-ish bat that we've seen these first 2 years?
Yes, I do think so. Justin mentioned he got better once he came off the catching position. If you look at, he's somebody I actually looked at pretty deeply into this winter. And Melendez, when you go from August 1st on, had a 272, 364, 497 triple slash line that plays out to a 131 WRC plus.
Yeah, that's a nice
and one of the ways he improved is he stopped chasing. It's like once they're like, hey, we may look at you as a leadoff hitter, so you go pull up his rolling graphs on Fangraphs, and you can see that his swinging strike rate dropped at the same rate that his out of zone swing dropped. And so he started making these improvements later in the season, and his final 25, 30 games were better than anything he had done previously. So it's almost like they told him, get a head start in your homework. We're going to have you hit leadoff next year. And he put on quite the display, a 13% walk rate. Yeah, he still struck out 27% of the time, but 8 bombs around this. And I don't buy that he's going to platoon. I think he's out there 5-6 days a week. And you look at the projections for him, I think I think that Melendez is being underrated here, and that he could be in for a pretty nice season comparative to this ADP. We said earlier, like, hey, do you have anything else to add about this one guy? Melendez is absolutely one of the guys I'd be taking. In fact, I'd take Melendez just about over every one of the names we've talked about so far.
Especially at the price point. I mean, he's the cheapest of the group, so why not? And I don't even think he needs to necessarily be catcher eligible for me to have some interest in Melendez. Interesting player here that I don't want to say he's forgotten. Like 287 isn't a nothing price, but the prospect sheen has dimmed a bit, and there could still be some upside here. He's only going to be 25 this year, so keep tabs on that with MJ Melendez. And if you're in Yahoo, like Justin said, still catcher eligible, definitely like him there, even at a higher price point. I will take him on. Late average oases here. 5 guys who go and pick 290 or later who could bring you some average. Now, it might be empty average, but it's hard to find batting average late. Jeff McNeil, 290. Brendan Donovan at 292. We discussed both of them at second base, but curious on Jason's thoughts there. Alex Verdugo in a new home, pick 317. Austin Hayes, 321. And Mr. Paper Wrists, Alex Kirilloff at 344. McNeil and Donovan, they're kind of the utility types. Like I said, we discussed them over at second base. Either of them strike your fancy, Jason, as late batting average options?
McNeil, because there's a clearer path for more playing time for him. With that, to me, it's like he's going to qualify at 2 positions, and I just like the fact that you can pencil him in for double-digit homers, double-digit steals, and a good batting average and a lot of volume doing that. And he's been sitting around there, usually rounds. I've seen rounds 20 to 22. Just 5th outfielder, you're looking for something and give you some volume there, and so I would take McNeil.
And anything to add on those two, Justin, because we did talk about them at second base, but I don't know if your thoughts have changed at all, because that was quite some time ago.
Okay. Yeah, no, it hasn't really changed.
Then we move on to Alex Verdugo. Again, he's in a new home here. Let's start with you, Justin. Moves from Boston to New York. That we've seen plenty of guys do this in recent years, but moving from one rival to the other is always kind of interesting. As a lefty, that park should help some power. Like, he's never been a big power guy, right? He's kind of a 12, 13 homer guy pretty consistently. Could he push up into the upper teens? Because Boston hurts lefty power, and of course New York favors the hell out of it. Do you see any sort of avenue here where you're more interested in Verdugo, or is it just going to be more of the same, which is a decent player but nothing too crazy?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more of the same. You look at the X home runs in Yankee Stadium for him. and they're actually less than they were in last year in Boston.
But what about, okay, I understand that, and there is value to looking at that, but what about changing his approach because he can leverage, because you're not going to pull in Boston. That spacious, unless you can wrap it around the pesky pole, it's way too wide open.
But part of it is just the launch angle. He's got an 8-degree launch angle.
He's not a guy. He's not a big power guy, Verdugo.
If he's one of those guys that I'll take the gamble on because I think the floor is actually pretty high. I mean, you're talking about he's always been like a 91 to 93% zone contact guy. Like he just puts the ball in play. And I think there is an upside where, he says, hey, I'm going to try to lift the ball and pull it a little bit more because of that short porch in New York. But ultimately, like, I don't think that is what he wants to do. I don't think that's what the Yankees want him to do. I think they got him to play good defense and put the ball in play and keep things moving around the lineup. So my guess is it's probably a little bit better in New York, but not like, I don't think there's like a big jump up coming right now.
And he was brought up for average. It did dip down to 264 last year, but Verdugo's a 281 career. Do you see him getting back closer to his career mark?
I do. I mean, he had a 294 BABIP last year. He's a career 313 guy. His XBA was about 10 points higher or over 10 points higher than his actual BA last year. So yeah, I think 275 to 285 with the potential that, if he gets good BABIP luck, maybe he gets back to another 300 season or something like that.
Agreed. Anything to add there, Jason, on Alex Verdugo?
No, my concern is if he does change his swing, how does that impact? It's like you can't just flip a switch and be like, hey,
exactly.
Instead of being a spray guy, I'm going to, just turn around and be try to pull all these fly balls.
And would that undercut the batting average and take away from what he really does? So that's a great point too. And that's why I think if you see anything, it might be a couple extra homers. I don't think Verdugo should change his approach. Stick with being a 280, 13
try to be a
type
nicer
of guy. Just be kinder instead. Austin Hayes jumped up to 275 last year. Now he's a career 262. Again, we're talking late here. So, these batting averages aren't crazy, but again, it's really difficult to find any sort of batting average later in the draft that isn't completely empty. And he does give you a little punch with it. Jason, 16 homers and like a 260 something average from Austin Hayes. Problem is things are getting crowded there. Do you worry about any sort of playing time situation with Austin Hayes in Baltimore?
If he stays in Baltimore, yes. And that's the thing. I would love Austin Hayes if he played somewhere else. Mm-hmm. He's an awesome defender. If you put him in a different park where he doesn't have that stupid left field wall taking things away from him, I'd actually like Austin Hayes. So if we're worried about playing time and how this is all going to play out, that's not going to stop me from drafting Austin Hayes, because if a trade does happen and he's included in that, then his opportunities become better. And so
absolutely,
to me, I don't care about it. Let that work itself out. But if you look at the youth movement they have going on, I'm looking at the roster. He's like the third oldest guy they have on that roster.
I know that it's crazy. Like him and Cedric Mullins and Santander are the grandpas on the team, and they're all under O'Hearn. 30. Like that's crazy. O'Hearn's the only one over 30, and he's just a couple months over age 30. They're such a young team. They've got so many options. It is unbelievable out there in Baltimore. The embarrassment of riches they have, and that's why, as much of a bummer as the Bradish injury is, they really can go address it. And Justin and I talked about the Jesus Luzardo interest. Like they can go out and make moves. They really, really can. We did talk Kirilloff over at first base. So Jason, I will stick with you on Kirilloff.
Whoa, do I not talk about
Hayes? I'm sorry. Austin Hayes.
Come on.
For Justin.
Come on. I mean, I'm not super interested in Hayes. Like it's such a weird.
It would have been funny if you said, "Let me talk about him," and then you said, "I don't have anything to add."
Yeah, it was such a weird season though. Like he was so good in the first half and then so bad in the second half. And both of them were kind of BABIP fueled. He got super, super lucky on balls in play in the first half. He had a 389 BABIP in that first half, and then a 288 BABIP in the second half.
It came hard.
Dropped 100 points. I think that the overall line is probably indicative of what we see from Austin Hayes. With the playing time risk, like you guys mentioned, would love to see him get into a different park. So I do agree with you guys for the most part.
Yeah, and I like Jason's call out, though, that if he does get traded, it's almost certainly to a team that wants him and thus would play him all the time. Maybe he could be part of a Luzardo deal as well. They could maybe get 2 hitters for him, right? I don't think it would have to just be Cowser straight up. Maybe you go Cowser Hayes, you get a lefty and a righty and kind of remake your outfield there. Kirilloff, we did discuss him at first base and his paper wrists. I don't know what paper wrists mean. I made it up at the first base preview, and I'm sticking with it because
it's perfect though.
Everyone understands it, right? When as soon as you hear it, you're like, yeah, that does make sense for Kirilloff. But where you at on him, Jason? Pick 344. Like, we know that he can be intriguing. Like, when he gets his bouts of playing time, the small spurts in between the injuries, there's always like some measure of intrigue there. But is it enough to get you to go back to the well at pick 344 on Kirilloff?
A month ago, absolutely. And remember, his last injury was him trying to field the ball in right field, dove and hurt his shoulder. The good news is that injury wasn't, as when they went in and looked at it, it wasn't as bad. So the repair was just maintenance and not anything that they had to sew back together. But then when they added Carlos Santana to the roster, then I became less interested with this, because I thought if Kirilloff was going to play, if he was going to play first base and most likely platoon with like Jose Miranda, if he could resurface that type of situation, I was interested in that, looking at Kirilloff, because we know he could hit. And I thought maybe he's not going to hit all the crazy homers that Matt Wallner hit, but Kirilloff has the ability to do that. But with now Santana in the picture, that's going to cloud Kirilloff's playing time. So I'm not as excited as I was about Kirilloff a month ago.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. And we did talk about that when the Santana signing did happen. Anything to add there, Justin, or we move on to our power speed guys?
I just find it funny that, like, with certain prospects, like, we like completely bury them after like one bad season or one.
You talking about Miranda?
Or just in generally speaking, right?
Well, yeah.
Like, we say this all the time, like, like Josh Lowe, like last year, like he was an afterthought,
complete afterthought.
One bad, like, small major league sample.
Thank you.
And then me included, I totally buried Josh Lowe. It wasn't even on my radar. But then there are guys like Alex Kirilloff, and I think you throw like Brendan Rodgers into like this mix where it's like people just keep holding out hope that someday they're going to be good. Like, just double last year. He had 319 plate appearances. Give him 640 would have been 22 home runs. Like, 622 home runs for like in all those.
That's a lot for a guy with paper wrist.
Yeah.
Let me see how many you can hit with paper wrists.
Shit, I couldn't. Like iron wrists, I couldn't hit 22 home runs at the major league level.
No, you're right though. Like, we being the fantasy community as a whole, like certain guys get picked for the ones that we stay bought in on.
Like,
and I thought you were gonna bring up Miranda.
Profar, like, is another guy, like, where people just kept going back to the well because he had this huge prospect pedigree. At some point, we just have to come to the conclusion that Alex Kirilloff is just not that good. And he's got massive injury risk. Maybe he proves me wrong. Hey, and more power to him if he does. But like, there are like 20 guys left on this list that I would take, and we've only got like 25 guys left on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I want to bring up Miranda because he's one of those guys that is a pure afterthought now. And I did like him, and I wanted to make sure I didn't do that with him. I actually snaked him in one of my DCs just to have a little piece, and it was in the 40s like of rounds. Like, it was dirt cheap. I'm like, man, this was a guy that a lot of us were going crazy for not too long ago. He put up a nice season in 2022. Yeah, he was a total flame out last year, but he's 26. I know PT is difficult to find right now, but I figured, give me a nice 26-year-old who knows how to hit, who has some major league experience.
On a team where everybody gets hurt. Like,
exactly. So that's why I like Miranda that late in DCs there, under the idea of not giving up on a prospect. And I know he's not like a prospect anymore at 26, but like, he's also not old and dusty at this point. Let's go power speed options here, and let's start with Jason on this one because it's from his favorite team. Jose Siri. I mean, he's very all or nothing, but he's got the skills to really do some damage with the homers and the steals. We saw it last year, 25 and 12. I feel like he could even run more if he wanted to. He's very efficient. He was 14 for 16 in 2022 and then 12 for 15 last year. Problem is he never gets on base. 267 OBP is so horrendously bad, but he ripped 25 bombs, 36% K rate, 6% walk. Is it just too volatile to really be that interesting as a top 300 pick, or is Siri doing enough to stay on your radar, Jason?
So he was the reason why Josh Lowe was sliding down last year.
Yes.
A lot of people were going after Jose Siri, and I was like, no, I didn't. I ended up with him nowhere, and I don't really want him this year. If we speak to it, remember, this is a club that values defense, and that's what Jose Siri brings to the table. Jose Siri is an elite center field defender. And they showed it with Kevin Kiermaier over the years that we will play a suboptimal bat if you can pick it, and Siri can pick it better than anybody else on the roster. And so they do that, but the volatility comes. I mean, he's a mistake guy. Yeah, he hit 25 bombs, but it's mostly like if you make a mistake, he'll hit it. But if you execute your pitches, he's got no chance.
Exactly.
And he will like look like Javier Baez at times, trying to expand his zone. I've never quite seen him swing at pitches that bounce, but he's come close. His strike zone's pretty expansive with that. And like you said, he is the stolen base thing, all the speed, plenty of speed. He just doesn't get on base.
It's
and
he's
when
never
he does
on
get on base, they don't really send him that often, which blows my mind. I mean, if he gets on base, you should have him running the second base because it's
29
for
35 for his career. Yeah, exactly. You have to cherish the moments that Siri actually gets on base and let him run. But he has a 273 career OBP. He just doesn't get on enough. Justin, anything to add there? You see a similar outlook. Do you like Jose Siri at 294, or is it just not enough to really take the plunge?
I mean, especially in the leagues where I don't care as much about batting average, yeah, sure, I'll totally do it. Like, I think, because I do think, you get power, you get speed. There is, more speed available if he did decide to start running. So yeah, I totally love it. Now, if you are in a league where you want to stay balanced, that's a problem because the batting average is probably not going to be great. But
223 career, I should add. I've been focusing on the OBP, but the batting average sucks too, of course.
The other point to bring along is, the whole defense thing. Now that Johnny DeLuca's in the picture, there's not the massive drop off that there was from Siri to Manny Margot. I mean, there was a bit when Manny Margot had to play center field. At one point, Margot used to play center field well. He did not do that last year.
No,
and so there was a big drop off. Josh Lowe was playing some center field for a little bit, but there was that drop off. But DeLuca is around. They acquired him in the deal, so he's there. He's just as fast. He doesn't have the power, nowhere near the power, but
he's in this group. So I'm glad you brought him up here. 544. Why is he that much? Is he just going to be short side? Like, what kind of PT can Johnny DeLuca get? Because I really like him. And again, he's a guy that I'm taking in the 40s type rounds of these drafting holds. What kind of PT can he get? Is he going to be limited to the short side, or can he start to carve out some of Siri's PT because he's such a more well-rounded bat, Johnny DeLuca?
All right. So if we look at things, obviously the offense needs to reshape itself with the giant void that Franco left in the pick. So it's like, whereas they may have been more, let's try to, last year, a lot of home runs, more offense than we've ever seen from this franchise. But then you try to look for a path to playing time. Brandon Lau, if the back starts flaring up again, Brandon Lau has more injuries, then what happens? Then you've got Jonathan Aranda, who Jason's got penciled in at DH. I don't think Aranda is a major league everyday player. I've seen he has hit well
especially
in the minors. Glove. I just don't see he's got an iron glove, like you said. And for a team that prioritizes defense, he's a very odd fit for this roster. If Jose Caballero doesn't play out, then what do they have? It's like there's paths for playing time for him. So kind of like Hayes, drop the skills, let the stuff figure itself out. And we'll see where it goes. But if they're trying to reshape this offense and trying to find some more moving around the bases type of thing, Yandy Diaz leadoff makes sense because he's great at that. But you've got to move around the bases. Right now, it's Brandon Lau hitting second. Brandon Lau they've kind of hit him everywhere, but we haven't seen a healthy Brandon Lau in a couple of years.
That's the thing.
He's good.
I love Lau's talent. What are we getting? Can we get 500 plate appearances again? And even that, is not a full timer. He has the one time over 400. Last year's 436 was the second highest for Brandon Lau. The 615 in 2021 is going to stand as his high water mark, probably because he's age 29 and the injuries are piling up. Justin, are you taking DeLuca anywhere? Again, he's like 36th round ADP. No. I've gotten him in the 40s. You're not buying?
DeLuca to me profiles as an accumulator that doesn't have enough playing time to accumulate.
But what if it opens up? Well, like Jason said, though, his defense from Siri is not that big of a drop. What if they value the bat enough to?
I mean, I disagree with Jason. I think Siri's defense is much better. I think DeLuca profiles as a guy who's probably a league average defender. I don't think he has very much power. I don't think he's got. I think he's got maybe above average speed, but like I honestly I don't think he is.
His plate skills are exponentially better, though.
His plate skills are, but I think that at the end of the day, the Rays will likely go with the guy who's the better defender in center, which is
they may, and they did with Kiermaier for years, even when Kiermaier wasn't hitting. So that is a fair point there. I'm sticking with my DeLuca shares late. I'm not overloaded on him because a guy like Trent Grisham goes around him, who I cannot quit to save my life. So there's other guys I like too, but I did want to get.
I'd rather have Alex Kirilloff. That's.
I'd rather have paper wrists. Oh my goodness. Okay, Tommy Pham still unsigned.
Would you like a board bet? Alex Kirilloff versus Johnny DeLuca.
That doesn't seem particularly fair. With the 200 pick split there. If you could say on a rate basis, I might, but even then, like, it's hard because DeLuca, if he doesn't play a lot, then you have to put such a potential variance.
It's all right. We don't have to do it. I was baiting you. It's fine.
Yeah, I see what you were doing there. Tommy Pham, Justin, still unsigned right now, so I don't know if we have a lot to discuss. Let's not spend a ton of time on him when we got a bunch of other guys.
I got like 4 questions in my chat today on Tommy Pham.
I was going to ask, are you drafting him at pick 311
No.
and taking the gamble?
I think there's a legitimate, and I know he was good, but I think there was a legitimate chance he's not in Major League Baseball this year. He is a knucklehead, and there are a lot of teams that will not sign him.
Ian Kahn, is that you?
Yeah, just because he's a knucklehead, and he's 35. Now, do I think he should be on a Major League team?
He's a 110 WRC plus. Wait. So you had the jock thing, but
And he left at halftime.
He had issues in Tampa. He had issues in St. Louis.
Well, I actually agreed with him with the front office in St. Louis.
I agree too, but like it's a pattern where some teams are just going to say we don't want to deal with it.
He's a little bit of a surly. I've actually heard some players though advocate
the players
for
love
him.
Yeah, absolutely, because like he's fiery. There are teams that are just going to say no, and then there are other teams that don't have a spot for him. And so all of a sudden, like, you start running out of options. I'm not saying he won't. I'm saying I think there's a chance that he won't.
I'm worried he could get Grichuk, which is to say signed as a short side platoon guy. In fact, Grichuk just took his job because he was in Arizona Pham.
Well, they can't sign. They can't sign Jock Peterson.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I know he wasn't going. Once Jock went there, I knew he wasn't going back to Arizona. But I'm saying Grichuk is filling that role. I do worry that that's what could happen to Pham. And at pick 311, it's just too risky. I'd rather take his former teammate Alec Thomas, who we're going to get to next, or my crush Jake Fraley. But Jason, excuse me, Pham, pick 311. You taking him on the spec, or are you waiting to see where he signs?
I will take him on the spec. Honest, and this is my hot take. Outside of Melendez, Pham's my favorite guy that we are talking about or that we have discussed. I'm a big fan of Pham. And to be fair, his issues in Tampa, he got on the fan base for not showing up. He didn't bitch about the team. He was just like, we're the fans. And this was exactly. So but Pham has got the skills and he gets the opportunity. Now, the fact that he hasn't shown up, he hasn't gotten the job yet. I don't know. I haven't sat down and looked at depth charts like, hey, where could he fit?
It's going to be an injury.
Pham always finds his way on one of my teams. Always. Even when he was with Boston, found my way on my team. I will find a room for Pham on my team at 311. I'm fine. I would agree. But Jake Fraley can definitely understand your love there and saying, okay, I'll go with Fraley. I'll go with Thomas. But Pham at this price is a bargain for what he can end up putting together if he gets the opportunity.
I love this tier, to be honest. I end up with multiples of them on teams pretty consistently, to be quite honest. We'll see where Pham lands. We'll revisit it then for sure. But Alec Thomas picked 328. Obviously had the big playoff surge there where he hit for a bunch of power. Thankfully, it has not resulted in a giant playoff tax. Pick 328 is plenty affordable. I really, really love Alek Thomas. You talk about a guy who can pick it in center. That's going to kind of guarantee the playing time for me. I guess the fact that he's a 72 WRC plus for 813 plate appearances has people cooling on him, which I understand, but he's going to be 24. And I think this playing time here has helped him kind of develop. And I think we're going to see a step forward this year. I think he can be a league average type bat, 15-15, playing every day in Arizona. I'm a big fan, and the projections kind of agree. They've got him right there at that league average type of WRC plus into the it's mid to low 90s, but that's a stone's throw from league average. I'm a big Alek Thomas fan. Justin, where are you at on Alek Thomas at age 24 this year?
Another one of these guys going to be in that this year's Cedric Mullins / TJ Friedl article. Made above average zone contact. There's a little bit of pop. There's speed. Amazing defense. Defense matters sometimes in fantasy, especially when it is on one end of the spectrum or the other, whether it's amazing or really poor.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's amazing will give him the opportunity to continue playing, even if he struggles. But I mean, I think people forget this is like a top 25 prospect not that long ago.
And
like, and part of it was the defense, like really buoyed him up a lot of prospect lists. But like, I think this is a guy who could be like a prime Andrew Benintendi, who is an accumulator that plays every day because of the defense, has enough power and speed in the profile. If his price drops at all with the recent signings to this team, fine. I'm just going to
every discount.
I'll take every discount. Yeah.
And Carroll's emergence kind of like diminished Thomas a little bit too in a weird way, which I don't think
Thomas was the better prospect at one point.
Exactly. And, again, there's room for both. So I don't think it should, but I think it has. And that's cool because I will take every discount I can get on Alek Thomas. Jason, do you join Justin and I on the Alek Thomas train?
My hope is I don't want to get to the point that I have to take Tom. Like when I look at this, I've already said I like Pham the best of the bunch here. The profile, I tend to fade these types of things. I want somebody who's done it versus somebody who has the potential to do it with this late. And so if the three of us were in a draft and I was picking before the two of you, you would see him slide by me.
Okay,
I would let
good.
one of you guys do it.
You won't take him from me. Good to know. Jake Fraley rakes daily when he plays. Problem is he doesn't always play. Obviously, we know how crowded things are there. And we're going to talk about a guy that some of y'all aren't even going to know the name of in Cincinnati. We'll get to that in a little bit here. I still love Jake Fraley. I know right now he's not penciled in for a full-time slot. That's fine. That's baked into the cost of pick 330 here. I'm still going to stick with him. I think he'll get his PT. He's not the only one that has some potential issues of missing playing time there. And so I think he'll mix in enough to be worth the pick 330 that he's at. And if he finds himself in some extra playing time, then great, we can kind of go from there. But I know that like a full-scale breakout is unlikely right now because of that playing time. Are you still on the Fraley train? Because I know we were Fraley versus Friedl last year, Justin, but we each liked each other's guy. So we were kind of getting both at different times. Friedl has definitely emerged. He's the dude. Like we're going for him as a foundational piece. What?
I said my guy won.
Yeah, we're definitely going for him as more of like a foundational piece. But do you still like Fraley in your 50-round draft and holds? You put him on your watch list in standard leagues? Where are you at on Fraley these days?
Yeah, I don't really want him. The playing time issues and the injury issues, like I think have just piled up and compounded enough where I just don't think he's that interesting for me. Obviously, things can change. He could get traded. There was rumors about him being on the block earlier in the offseason, but then that put him in a worse park. But I'd still give him a little bit more playing time. Or someone get hurt. Or someone could get, totally bust. Like, I mean, as much as I love TJ Friedl, like that profile isn't something that couldn't just disappear or something. Or
not only that, but
Will Benson
Benson I was going to talk about with the 31% K rate, but Friedl before you moved to Benson, I think there's 3 different times I messaged you last year of him running into the wall where I said, your guy's dead. Like I was legit. I wasn't even trying to.
Some of them were in the same game.
I was like, oh my God. He's taking forever to get up, and then he would stay in the game and just be a stud. But he plays that all out kind of game that could put him in danger.
Those things, catch up to you, Kevin Kiermaier.
And then what about Benson's 31% K rate? I like him. I understand why people have excitement over him. 11 homers, 19 steals in 108 games, but that's a lot of swing and miss. If he's not putting up a 391 BABIP, doesn't he have some risk, Benson?
Sure, and Steer could move back into the infield if any of those guys,
yeah,
like, in the infield struggle, right?
Or
so,
if
like,
the India trade that everyone's been talking about
I think
finally happens.
Yeah, I think for me, like, a draft champions makes sense. I think in a fab league, he's one of those guys like I pick up off the waiver wire when someone gets hurt.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm not taking Fraley in 30-round drafts right now. It's all DCs for me until the playing time avenue becomes more open. Anything to add on Fraley, Jason, or can we move to Brandon Marsh?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting in Wharf that both Fraley and Benson went in the 21st round. With like 6 picks of one another.
Good.
So
I think they should be going near each other. You can pick who your guy is between those two.
And one of them plays out, you dump the other. I would just say anytime, and use this as a whole, we've already said it a couple of times, but anytime there's playing time uncertainty, that offers a discount in the draft that you can take advantage of.
Yep.
And if it doesn't work out, especially we're talking 21st round, you cut and run. You just make it go to the next guy. We're not talking about like, hey, let's do this in the 15th, 14th round. We're talking like 20th plus round. Take a shot. If one of them materializes, somebody gets hurt, that price would jump. If Benson got traded, if one of those two guys got hurt, the other guy's going to jump up a few rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, let's move to your guy, Brandon Marsh. He's out 4 weeks from February 9th. So going to miss, the early part of spring. They're going to kind of set him back a little bit, but Phillies are still hopeful that he's going to be back for opening day, so might not end up being anything. At pick 335, I think he's somebody you could still take the risk on if you wanted to. He's been somebody you've been a fan of in the past. At the same time, you're very keen about not adding injury to your profile or currently injured guys. Where does that put you with somebody like Marsh, who you've loved so much in the past?
I'm not as worried about the injury because, like you said, he's supposed to be back in early March. So we'll know by the time we get to a lot of our drafts in March whether or not he's back on the field ready to go.
It was a knee scope, just since I didn't mention it. Knee scope, nothing too crazy.
Not worried about that. More worried about Whit Merrifield and Rojas and like all these other guys, because one of the reasons why I was so big on Marsh when he got traded to Philadelphia was the guys on the corners were so bad defensively that like Marsh had to play, especially with that amount of guys in the rotation that have like a fly ball lean. So that is no longer the case. Ross is a really, really good defender. They've now added Whit Merrifield who can defend in the outfield. So I'm a little bit more concerned. I mean, I've already gotten some early shares, so like I'm fine. But to me, I'm kind of watching the price. I think the additions of these guys to the Phillies plus Marsh's injury might just bottom out his price to a point where I'm willing to take the gamble.
Yeah, that'd work.
But at his current cost, I'm probably not grabbing Marsh.
Yeah, pick 335, goes as low as 387, at least in this sample period that we're looking at here. We talked a bit about him during the Merrifield chat, Jason, but Brandon Marsh, is he somebody who's on your radar here, or does the injury plus the addition of now some other defensive quality guys scare you a little bit with him?
The latter. I mean, and you guys didn't mention Pache as well. Pache's defense comes into play.
That's so his best attribute.
There's a lot of gloves that have to be shared around.
True. Yes. Not best, only. Yeah. So there's a lot to go around there. And again, don't let if you like Marsh, I'd say stay bought in. Don't let the injury dissuade you. But if you're worried about the playing time situation, that makes more sense to me than freaking out over the knee scope. Let's talk Stone Garrett, because he was somebody that if he hadn't gotten hurt at the end of last year, I think his price point would be upwards of maybe 300 picks higher. He's picked 5'11" right now. He was having a little late season breakout that was really getting people excited. He goes up to try to make this catch. I think it was at Yankee Stadium. I want to say like he caught his leg on it and boom, ripped up his leg out. He had 9 homers, 3 steals in 89 games. And like I said, was really starting to come into his own there. Now he's a big strikeout guy too. He actually kind of cuts a little bit of a Will Benson figure from the right-handed side there with the 30% K rate, 10% walk rate. Is there enough here, Jason, for Stone Garrett to come back at age 28 and kind of pick up where that summer surge left off, or does he get buried out there in Washington?
I don't think he gets buried. So I just don't know when he's going to start the season. When I did the bold prediction, Garrett, who I chose for the Nationals, because like you said, his growth right before his injury, he was just doing some great things. And then it was Yankee Stadium where he broke his fibula.
They're saying they're going to push him, by the way. I'm going to put this quote in our chat here so you guys can see it, but they're saying, hey, we're going to be pushing him. He's 28. They don't have any reason to kind of, handle him with kid gloves. They're going to push Garrett. Does that intrigue you? Did you stick with him in your bold predictions?
Yeah, and I wrote the bold prediction I wrote back then. This was back, I wrote it in the end of January, so about a month ago. And so that really hasn't moved it. But when I was looking at it, I figured, again, this is not going to be a good team. And if he shows he can do what he can do, then he'll have the opportunity to do it. Because right now they've got Jesse Winker in his DH. And I think we all hate Winker for all the years that we wasted on him. But there are places for Garrett to take that step forward as long as his lower half is good, because he did show some progress. Yeah, he's got some flaws, but this is a second division club. This isn't you're striking out too much, you can't play. It's like you're 28. It's like, as the quote says, it's like, hey, we need to see what you have. Let's go ahead and put you out there and see what's possible. So I still do like Garrett quite a bit, especially at this market price. I mean, I wish I was in the NL only league so I could take advantage of this. But I think I have Garrett in at least one of my drafting holds already, because this price right now is just too good to pass up.
He's coming in a different category here, but I do want to just throw in actually both these guys from the post-hype long shots, Nick Senzel and Joey Gallo. Quick thoughts on them, Jason. Either of them as post-hype long shots give you any intrigue in Washington, since PT could be there if they're healthy and playing well?
Yeah, that size pretty much everything that says it. Like, oh, no, it's like I can't.
What could have been?
I really want to avoid, like, one of my goals if I was in an only league is make sure I get enough power so I don't have to throw that late round on Joey Gallo.
Exactly.
Like, oh God, I've got to take this guy and it doesn't play out. No, I don't want that. That should be like my plan Z. If 25 other plans fail, then I will pick Joey Gallo. And I think Nick Senzel will be about plan W. That. So that's
he's definitely in that latter portion as well. He is penciling as the third baseman there. Maybe Justin's guy Carter Keyboom could push him out if the health isn't there. Where are you at on Garrett, Gallo, and Senzel, the three Nats there, Justin? Any of them strike your fancy?
I mean, Garrett is a little bit interesting. He's one of those guys that, like, you see like a path to like being a really productive player in fantasy. The hard part is this, like, I don't know if there's any player in baseball that has a 2% swing that could mean so much for him, and that's in the zone contact. In 2022, his zone contact was 78%. It's god awful. Mm-hmm. Last year, both obviously small samples, but last year it was 80, almost 81%. Like, that for him, because he's got power and speed, like that he could make that work. Like,
small gains can kind of be exponentially important for players like this, because he's got the pop for Stone Garrett. Yeah, that's a great call. He does his most damage against lefties, so it does have the kind of that short side risk. But again, we're talking about a team here in Washington, like, play this guy. He's 28. See what you got. I like that they say they're going to push him because he wants to be pushed. He wants to go out there, test the leg, see where it's at. And, like Jason said, Jesse Winker's not blocking anybody off. Nick Senzel isn't. And frankly, neither is Joey Gallo. If Stone Garrett can play and he's healthy, I think they're going to play him full time.
If you're wondering what the Nationals are doing, you're not alone. Okay. Yeah. Because, like, you look at, like, them going from Dom Smith, who was like no power, all contact guy, to Joey Gallo, who's the exact opposite. They have one thing in common. Didn't cost them very much.
Exactly.
But that's what they're doing.
Just try to hit some bombs, score some runs that way. They got a few guys in there that can make a bit more contact. Like, I love that top three. Abrams, Thomas, Ruiz is kind of interesting. Those guys get on base, and they're hoping Gallo can clear the bases. One of their Joeys, Gallo or Meneses, can clear the bases there, and we'll see what they can do. Last guy in this tier is Trent Grisham. I've already mentioned I love him. I can't quit him. I know the playing time isn't really there. It's a draft and hold only for me right now, and then I will assess in waiver leagues, because right now he is on the outside looking in, but they don't exactly have the bastions of health across that lineup in New York. So it wouldn't surprise me if Grisham found his way into the lineup, but right now it's just not there with Verdugo, Judge in center, and then Soto in right. So that's kind of the issue with him. Justin, is Grisham on your draft champions radar at all? Are you watch listing him for waiver leagues, or are you just out because the last couple of years have been pretty tough?
Yeah, he's a watch list guy for me. Like, I mean, he's defensively good, and there's so many injury issues on this Yankees team every year that he will find 450 plate appearances. I don't know when they're going to happen, and that becomes the difficult part in terms of rostering him. But like, yeah, he's a watch list guy. As soon as Judge goes down, as soon as Stanton goes down, as soon as one of these guys goes down, then you pick him up, use him for a little while, and then drop him back when he runs out of playing time.
Anything to add on Grisham here, Jason?
No, as a Yankee hater, I hope he gets 450 plate appearances.
Yeah, with his 91 WRC plus. Yeah, again, the power and speed keeps me intrigued. He is still only 27, by the way. He has talent. He has a great
27
eye.
breakout.
Exactly. It's time. It's time. He's a little passive, though. I think he's somebody that maybe strikes out too much because he's looking for the walk. Go up there and attack a bit more.
That's his best chance to reach base.
What's that?
It's his best chance to reach base.
It is. And I do get that, especially when you're struggling. You want to find a way to get yourself on the base. You got to touch that, feel the base under your feet when you're in a slump there, hitting 198. So I get it. All right, we got these playing time via Great Glove. We already talked about Garrett Mitchell, but we got Pete Crow Armstrong, Harrison Bader, Brenton Doyle, and Mickey Moniak. Now, I don't think we need to deep dive all four of them because they're kind of all the same player. Let's just be honest about it. But they're in different scenarios, and so they might have some different outlooks. So I'm going to have you just pick your favorite here. Jason, go ahead. Who is the guy that, if any of the four, is on your list that you actually care about in DCs? Because I think they're all kind of DC type guys.
Yeah, they definitely are. Easy for me is Brenton Doyle. I mean, this is Jose Siri with all the steals that we want Siri to have without the home runs. Same profile. Yeah,
and in Colorado too.
Absolute elite defender. He's going to play every day because they need his defense out there. And he has, his stolen base success rate as a professional player, he's 93 of 110. He knows how to steal bases, and he's got the speed to do it. The problem is he can't steal first. But exactly. Siri, it's like at the price, Siri 294 and Doyle 411. The home runs, I'm not even going to argue that. But everything else, Doyle could do better than Siri. I'll take Doyle at that price and let somebody else play with Siri.
I co-sign that as well. I think that's a great point there. Who's your favorite here? Pete Crow Armstrong, Bader, Doyle, Moniak, Justin?
I mean, I think it's Doyle probably. I agree with Jason, but just to go a little different, as long as the Cubs don't re-sign Cody Bellinger, which I think we all think they're going to do, Mike Tauchman cannot be the long-term solution in center. And
there's just no way, right?
Hopefully Alex Chambers is not listening.
I know. We say that every time we bring it up, too, because I feel bad. But, how the hell is he still their guy atop the lineup right now?
74. I don't know how he's still doing it. But if the Cubs do not re-sign Bellinger, which, like I said, I think they will, that has to mean that Pete Crow Armstrong is coming up. He can at least play in elite center field for them. And, I think he can get on base enough where he can steal some bases. I think that is the answer. That being said, I'm probably not drafting any of these guys. They're just
not even in DCs?
No, I prefer other guys that we're going to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, I another Sporer favorite here is Bader. I can't quit him. Yeah. And there is playing time with the Mets. I know. I absolutely should. Yeah. He had a horrendous year. But he did steal 20 bags. I still love him. I got him on one team, and that's it. I had to get my one ticket just in case, because the year I quit him, he's going to freaking go 20, 30 or some dumb shit.
Like Tanner Scott did me last year. I finally quit Tanner Scott. And
it's the worst feeling when you're in on a guy for multiple years, and then they finally
that's a good go crazy. Twitter question. Who is the one guy that's going to break out this year because you're not going to draft him?
Because you're off of him. That is a good one. And then I do want to get Moniak a little love here just because he did show some things late last year. Was that enough to at least even get him on your watch list at all, Justin? Mickey Moniak.
I mean, yeah, because I think he's going to play somewhat regularly.
Yeah, the PT is available out there.
So, but I mean, he's still a 30% strikeout guy, a 3% walk guy. Oof. He got lucky on balls in play. He had a 397 BABIP. He probably should have hit closer to 245. And he's probably going to platoon. Zone contact was truly atrocious. So I think there's real batting average, cratering downside where you could hit 210. So yeah, I mean, watch list throw him into your lineup if he's running hot, but like I would not like if you were like oh, if he could find full-time playing time, he could just double what he did last year to be 28-12. That's not happening. We're talking like so. We're talking, I think for me, I think he's more of like a 15 homer guy in full playing time.
I agree. I think he ran hot last year, like you said, with Moniak, and a 397 BABIP. I was heartened by him doing something, though, because he is one of those guys, he's just going to get so much hate as a former number 1 overall that didn't really pan out, but it really wasn't a great draft. Like, I don't even necessarily blame Philly for that. Right. Like, who the hell else should they have taken?
They did it so that way they could save money on the first pick and sign guys later.
Exactly. And so it's like, I don't know. I feel bad. I'm like protective of him weirdly because it's like you go look at that draft, Senzel, Ian Anderson, Riley Pint, Corey Ray, AJ Puck, like, did they make the worst pick ever? I don't think so. The best guy from that draft is Will Smith, but he went 32. No one was considering him number 1, and nobody has a crystal ball to say, oh, you should have taken him. So I'm weirdly protective of him because I feel like everyone hates on Moniak when it just wasn't a great draft.
My only thought on Moniak is I have very much appreciate his efforts of helping me win AL labor. He is not going to be anywhere near my roster this year.
Nice. So you got a little
taste
of that. I picked him up as a free agent
right when he came up, and he was fantastic for me.
That's awesome. He's your Sean Bouchard.
Exactly.
He will stay with you forever because of what he helped for you. All right, I put the Red Sox, these 3 guys, in one tier by themselves here because I think they all have like their own measure of intrigue. Wilyer Abreu picked 384, Ceddanne Rafaela 384. Both that I didn't mess up there. They both have the same ADP area, and then Adam Duvall at pick 400. Remember how great he was to start the year?
And they got hurt.
Yeah, that was wait, is he a free agent? Hang on.
He is a free agent.
Yeah, he's a free agent.
Oh,
yeah,
never mind then.
Fun.
Well, he's a fake Red Sox then.
Yeah,
we'll still talk about him here, but he's a fake Red Sox. But Abreu and Rafaela are still on the Red Sox. And Abreu really caught my eye last year. I was pretty intrigued by him. Now, it's 2 homers, 3 steals in 85 plate appearances. What caught your eye so much? Well, the 22-8 in the minors in 86 games at AAA is what really caught my eye. And I feel like he takes a bunch of walks. He doesn't strike out too much, or didn't as much in the minors last year at 20%, but does have a lot of swing and miss. So it's going to be like that 3 true outcome type of guy, but he can add some speed as well. Is Wilyer Abreu on your radar at all this year, Jason?
One of these guys has to do it. And, you mentioned Abreu's numbers, but don't forget Rafaela was 22 home runs and 39 stolen bases between AA, AAA, and the majors last year. Yep. So it's like one, and
brilliant
Cora
defender
said
too for
if
Rafaela
Rafaela makes it, he'll be the center fielder, is what the path there. So one of these guys has to make it. And going back to what we were saying earlier, as soon as the playing time works its way out, somebody's going to jump. So let's just say either one of these, and I would be willing to take a dart on either one of these guys. But if one of them gets the job, and we look at to me, I think they leapfrog everybody else we just talked about in the PT with Great Glove.
Agreed.
And they're in that late round tier. They're going up there. Instead of being 384, they're closer to that 294, 310 range that we were talking about with Jose Siri.
I definitely agree with that. And so I'll be keeping an eye on Boston's playing time there in spring to see if Abreu or Rafaela really separates themselves. I already got some Abreu shares in DCs. That's where they're at right now, but they could play themselves into free agent leagues, your standard 30-rounders, if they carve out that full-time roster spot. Justin, on Abreu and Rafaela, before we get to fake Red Sox, Duvall here, do you like either of those youngsters?
I like them. I like Rafaela more. I think Rafaela has the upside in fantasy to like be a guy who could be a difference maker. Whereas I don't really see that with Abreu. I think Abreu is much more of a guy.
His power's better.
His power may be better, but Rafaela's speed is so much better, and his defense is so good that if he's given an opportunity, like Jason mentioned, the Red Sox have already said, like, if Rafaela's on the opening day roster, he's going to be the center fielder, which means like full-time playing time and a lot of opportunity to get that. I think that at the end of the day, unless Rafaela just really wows in spring training, Abreu gets the first shot and could be like a little bit of an accumulator type. But if I'm drafting a deeper league or a draft and hold, I think I'll go to Abreu because I think the path to playing time is a little bit easier. If I'm drafting in like a fab league, I'm drafting Rafaela because if he doesn't make the team, I can drop him and go grab somebody else. But I think the upside is massive on him.
Okay. And both are very intriguing to me. So again, if both find a way on the team, the Tyler O'Neill thing definitely makes that a bit more difficult. But also, he's not exactly Mr. Health either. So there's a scenario where both end up carving out 400 plus plate appearances as the season goes. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by Abreu. Rafael with that amazing glove does have the blazing speed too. He could be,
I do wonder if they'll give Rafael a real shot, considering like they are not letting Yoshida touch the outfield because the defense. Maybe this is an organizational shift where they go.
I loved watching him play left field last year. It was great.
Yeah, because you don't like the Red Sox. Yeah, the Rays fan loved seeing him fumble all over the place out there. Yeah, he is the DH right now. And so we have Abreu penciled in right now, but I don't think that's guaranteed. Keep an eye on both Abreu and Rafaela in spring training. Now, Duvall is not a Red Sox anymore. He is a free agent. Probably going to get Grichuk as well, where he's going to get signed somewhere to maybe be a short side platoon. Is he a draft champions pick for either of you? Jason, you first with Adam Duvall.
He is. The problem, as you guys were talking, I'm trying to find a home for Adam Duvall.
Yeah,
trying to walk around the league. It's tough. Like, Cleveland absolutely could use some kind of help offensively.
Man, imagine if they had like Nolan Jones or Will Benson. How crazy would that be?
Yeah. But I'm just like,
I'm going to do it every episode. That's so stupid.
I'm trying to find a home for him. And it's just like, where do you find the home? It's like, okay, do you go take the paycheck? And no, you can't even go do it in Chicago because Eloy is going to be a DH. So it's like, Duvall's options are extremely limited with it.
At least he can play defense though.
Correct.
Duvall's a good defender.
So Cleveland might be an option for that, but it's like tough to try to find a home for a guy like that. But defensively, I kind of look at him like as a poor man's Hunter Renfroe. He can still throw really well, and he can still barrel up a baseball, but there's a lot of mistakes in between that.
Yep, I think that's a good way to put it. I think
that's exactly what I thought too. I was like, I wonder if they could like have Duvall and Renfroe on the same team.
Right? The Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. He and Pham, Duvall and Pham are waiting for injury. And then they might call up the team instead of waiting for the call.
Duvall may lead the KBO in home runs this year.
True. I mean, you got Snell to the KBO on your sign back there, but Duvall could legitimately go over there and dominate.
Half of the free agents are going to end up there.
Let's jump over to the post-hype long shots here. We talked Senzel and Gallo. These are going to be names everyone's going to recognize. Ramon Laureano, speaking of Cleveland, that's an outfielder they have at least. Pick 441. Edward Olivares, our favorite. Where did he get moved to again? Pittsburgh, that's right. And then Drew Waters is still in KC, 458. So is Kyle Isbell. That's why Olivares was expendable. Isbell's at 532. Oscar Colas, 548. And the aforementioned, actually, I don't think we mentioned Joe Adell when we were talking Moniak, but he's basically a righty version of Moniak at 551. Again, let's just play favorites here, Justin, instead of going through every single one of them. Give me two of your favorites here, since it's a bigger group.
I'm not going to lie. I like all these guys, and I will draft all of these guys.
These are guys that I have drafted over the years.
Yeah, these guys are all so cheap. They're all draft champions guys. My favorite's Kyle Isbell, just because I think the playing time is locked in Kansas City for him. And then my second favorite, give me the just huge discount on Oscar Colas. Like, I know he didn't show much of anything, but he's probably going to play every single day in Chicago. There is a ton of power in this bat. And I just think the path to plate appearances is so much easier for him.
Well, doesn't Dom Fletcher complicate it a little bit though with Eloy taking?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's my only concern. But again, at pick 548, I will take that shot.
Yeah, just so cheap.
He's one of those guys that there was so much juice on Colas last year, and since he didn't do anything, now everyone acts like he's dead. Like it is kind of crazy how quickly he has fallen by the wayside here for Oscar Colas. 548, I will take that shot. I like your Isbell call. I'm still on Olivares. I can't quit him.
I love him too. I drafted him, yeah.
And he might not be a full timer, but I think he should get some playing time and he could play himself into more PT. The problem is he probably is a short side guy because he hasn't done that much against righties, but he is still just 28, which isn't young, but it's not old either. He's kind of in that in-between zone. If they just let him play, maybe there could be something there. So I do like him. He can't be
demoted down, by the Royals anymore because he's no longer on the Royals.
But he does still have an option, so even Pittsburgh could do that.
There's no way he still has an option.
He does. What if Pittsburgh sent him to Omaha? Just for old time's sake. That'd be kind of funny. Even though that's not their AAA, they just send him
like 18 trips.
I have no idea.
I-71. Wow.
Well, you know that, in a given year, that's still only the one option. I'm surprised too, though. I thought for sure he would be out of options, but Edward Olivares still has an option. Jason, pick 2 faves from this group here: Laureano, Olivares, Waters, Isbell, Colas, and Adele.
See, I like the fact that we're all kind of taking different guys. Drew Waters, I like. When I watch Drew Waters play, I'm impressed.
He's Spider-Man memes with Isbell too.
Pretty much.
They are very similar.
When I've watched him play, I like what I see. And then getting back to guys that we should quit and we can't, Joe Adele. I'm going to do it one more time. The absurd fact with Joe Adele, he's 24. He's 24. He's out of options.
Insane,
he's out of options.
That's
not
insane.
Olivares. Joe Adele is out of options at age 24.
How is he only 24?
It's crazy that he's 24, but I will give Joe Adele one more chance. He turns 25 just after the season starts. So his birthday is April 8th. You figure he's got to make the roster because he's out of options. I cannot see the Angels saying just cut him, because as soon as they do,
they don't have enough talent to do that.
The White Sox would pick him up.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It would be over. So yes, I will do Joe Adele one more time. I think I already have him in one of my DCs.
I'll draft all these guys.
I guess the only guy we didn't give any direct love to, though, was
He's
Laureano.
Probably going to play all the time because Cleveland's outfield sucks.
That's what I was going to say. It was like, maybe we should give him at least a little showcase here, because
Go ahead. I don't
will
like
play.
Laureano.
He will play all the time. Justin, are you taking him? He went. See here. He went 9-12 last year in 105 games.
Yeah,
and he will play every day. I think he is
play every day that he's not hurt. So probably another 100 games.
Sweet.
And he'll probably hit 10 home runs and steal 15 bases, and like his perfect draft champions guy. So yeah, I
agree. All right, we're in the Hail Marys. We're coming down the stretch here. I only listed a handful of guys, and then you guys can add some others if you want to. But I put Victor Scott from St. Louis, a total speed demon, going pick 498. Dylan Cruz, 531. Listen, I love Wyatt Langford too, but I don't understand why Dylan Cruz is just being completely forgotten. And I bring up Langford because I don't have them too far apart. Now, I understand that Langford is right on the cusp and could even break camp, whereas Cruz, they can kind of slow roll it a little bit in Washington. But how does he not spend 4.5, 5 months with the team this year? I don't understand it. James Wood, also a national, but he's a little bit further behind the curve there, 573. Oswaldo Cabrera's kind of an I can't quit him type in New York. Playing time is tough right now, but he plays everywhere, so maybe he could find some time. 733. He's my last pick in a DC. And then Jason brought up a guy that Justin and I thought was fake. We thought he was playing congressman or player. Jacob Hurtubise for Cincinnati is at pick 739. That's Hurtubise. Jacob Hurtubise. Let's start with him because that's your guy, Jason. Tell us about Jacob Hurtubise.
All right, so he was my 50th round pick in my last DC. I took him and put him there. He went to college at West Point, so a little bit of a late start to his career. But in one of the recent articles, they said he's been compared to TJ Friedl, and he said himself, I'd say I'm Friedl with less power but more speed. They're about the same size. And so, to me, it's like that got my interest. And if you look at his minor league numbers, we're talking about a guy who's been an on-base machine throughout his level in the minors. He had a 413 in 2021, 385 in 2022, and then a 453 at 537. Those are OBPs, not OPSs, not slugging. That's
537 in 36 games at AAA last year.
Base. And he has stolen it's 55 plus 50, 110 bases over the last 3 years. And this is why I took him as my 50th round guy.
He went 11 for 11 in the Arizona Fall League as well, Jacob Hurtubise. Now, of course, the biggest question is where the hell does he play? But if he finds the playing time, then he's also in Cincinnati, which is good lineup, good park. So as a 50th rounder, I don't hate it.
Or he gets traded because he's 26 already.
Why not?
So maybe he gets thrown into something else. But it's like when I looked at this, it was like, I need a 50. Ooh, here we go. This is what I did because I had him down because he was actually my bold prediction for Cincinnati for the NL Central when I wrote that one up a little while ago. Because I was like, I'm looking. I'm like, who the heck? Ooh, look at these numbers. And so I put him down there. So yes, that's what I have. And I said he was going to be a top. I said my bold prediction, but he would be a top 150 outfield. And I said the absence of ADP data is not an oversight. It doesn't exist. He had been taken in one draft.
And
one
now
of 48
two
draft champions, and then he went at 2. So yes, that's who I put down as my Hail Mary. I mean, Victor Scott obviously would be the speed demon there. Maybe he's closer to things, but it's just like, to me, Hurtaby's 50th round. What do I got to lose?
Playing time isn't exactly open in St. Louis either. So Victor Scott, while he is the most expensive here at $498, A, that's still affordable, but B, he himself, if you take him in a DC, you're still looking for PT for Scott, and I don't believe he's on the 40-man.
That's what I was going to ask, because Hurtaby's is. They did add him to the 40-man roster this winter.
The only problem with Hurtaby's, though, being on the 40-man and it actually mattering, is they've got 4 outfielders that are projected for AAA. On the 40-man, and they're all like interesting profile. Former like prospect of note, Reese Hines, Nick Martini, who's a guy who's just kind of been up and down for a number of organizations, and Bubba Thompson, who like has speed and defense for days, but nothing else.
Thompson just got picked up and waived again in that sentence. Like he
could, absolutely good. But I just mean like all those guys could like be guys that like are like, the next man up.
Yeah,
I don't know if Hurtaby's is next to it, but fine, screw it. 48th, 50th round, like whatever, like those guys are likely not going to play for you very much anyways. Out of this group, for me, like fucking Cruz, man. Like,
y'all with me on Cruz? Because I don't understand why he's just completely glossed over.
It's because Langford had just such an amazing run.
I know.
Minors, but like prior to them ever putting on an actual uniform in the minors, like Cruz was
over Langford.
It wasn't even close. Like Cruz as a generational talent, and I don't know that 3 months or 2 months worth of production in the minor league should like change people's opinion that much. I think Cruz is highly underrated right now. I think the problem is, will the Nationals actually bring him up and start his clock?
That's the tough part, because Langford could break camp for the defending champions here because they just want to keep the ball rolling on that. Whereas, the Nats might just slow roll it a little bit, Memorial Day call up, and it would be justified because Cruz ripped A-ball. He did great. He was on that Langford path. He hit the ground running, but then he ran into a bump at AA, didn't do very well in his 85 plate appearances. Nobody gives a shit about 85 plate appearances, but it doesn't build that hype the way Langford did by steamrolling through the 3 levels the way he did. So I understand that, Cruz might go back to AA to start, do a month there, do a couple weeks at AAA, and then be up. So I'm taking him in DCs, but I'm really excited about Cruz, and I think he's going to make an impact this year. I will be ready to spend on him when he comes up in the NFBC leagues. I will put a pretty decent fab bid on him because I think he's every bit as good as Langford. So I do like him. And then James Wood, again, I think he's a little bit further behind because, again, they can also slow roll him too. And I want to say he's a year younger. Yeah, he's a year younger than Cruz. He had better time in AA last year though too. So they're kind of neck and neck. And we talked about all those guys with the Nats. None of them are blocking off these two. If these two are ready, then Joey Gallo and Nick Senzel can get fucked. Like they will move those guys, or whoever's blocking them, they will get rid of those guys to bring up Wood and Cruz. It just might not be until the summer. So I do get that. Anybody that I haven't listed here that you guys want to talk about? Because there's still other names, but I couldn't list literally everybody. I tried.
Can I just rattle off names as I go to the ADP
and we have to guess if they're real or fake?
Seth Brown is a season removed from 25 home runs. He plays on the A's where he's going to get plate appearances. I know Luis Matos got blocked off by some of the moves the Giants have made, but like I think he is a watch list guy. G1 Bay, I know a lot of people have like kind of buried him. He was injured in the second half of the season. I think he's gonna find playing time. Colton Cowser is a former top 10 prospect that it's really small sample people are burying. He could be a part of a trade or just make his way up and be totally fine.
Hang on, sticking with Baltimore, Heston Kjerstad has put himself back on the radar. He's the number 2 overall pick in the 2020
draft.
He's UT
only in a lot of leagues.
That's right. So he's not outfield yet, but he could get outfield. I really like his bat. He really reemerged last year and got a little taste of the majors as well. So I like that. Chase DeLauder. We are making fun of Cleveland a lot with their outfielders, and rightfully so, by the way. But Chase DeLauder is somebody who
Estevan Florial in that Cleveland outfield, like they traded for him. he could be, he could be one of those guys that's like a sneaky stolen base guy.
Absolutely.
If he can find enough playing time. I mean, we've already joked about him a bunch, but right now Mike Tauchman is the center fielder for
he gets on base. He gets on base.
6'8" or 6'98" right now in the ADP, and he's projected to lead off and be the strong side platoon in Chicago.
Oh, when you say that, you gotta snap your fingers and point at me. What does he do? Gets on base.
Gets on base.
So you pointing at me? You want me to talk?
Nick Gordon could get some playing time in Miami.
I got two names.
Go ahead.
Two. Jake Bowers. And
I was going to bring up Bowers.
Okay. They traded for him. Yeah.
Jake the Rake. The number, the indicators, like he's got some stuff. Like Jake the Rake. And then I would say the same thing along with Richie Palacios. There's a reason why the Rays made a deal for him.
Good call out.
So those two guys, I feel like we're talking late.
Late. We are talking guys. Most of these guys are
looking at.
Most of these guys are watch listers that you can just kind of be mindful of, and then if they start to get some playing time, you remember them and say, "Oh, they talked about him on the pod. I'm going to jump on this right now," or draft and hold.
Okay, I know he has not lived up anywhere near to his contract, but Avisail Garcia is projected to be their full-time DH. He's going to pick 732.
He's going to play.
I tried that 2 years ago, and I thought he was going to be great, and he just absolutely flopped for Miami. Now watch him. This will be the guy that I quit. But Avisail Garcia has always had good contact numbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he just fell apart.
I've always got some love for him because I hit on the 2021 season. Thank you very much, Derek Carney, because he had pumped him up. He was like really high in the Bad X. And so I got him like everywhere, and I got the 29 and 8 with a 262. So I always have some love for Avisail Garcia for that.
This is what you and I were talking about last episode, is like there are guys like, this is not like outfield has big drop-offs in places.
Sure.
But like it is deep. Like there is no like, oh, outfield isn't deep. When you're getting a full-time player in Avisail Garcia after pick 700, I'm sorry.
Free.
Like that's fine. Like, like you're gonna find guys if you want to find volume, guys, you can.
I know he's your meme guy because of what he did for you last year. You got a jersey, but do you have any love for your boy Sean Bouchard? He's penciled in as
I will always have love for Sean Bouchard.
You have draftable love for him. He's penciled in as a starting right fielder right now.
Yeah. I mean,
do you see oh my God, sorry to interrupt you after I asked you a question. Do you see who the non-roster invitee is in Colorado? Go to the page right now. I need to see.
I know exactly, because Justin, I texted you this. And you were like, "Let's go!"
Oh, it's Bradley Zimmer. That's right. I forgot you did text me that. This will be the Bradley Zimmer breakout year. That totally, I love it.
It's coming.
Maybe I will just throw a dart on him
maybe you will. Of course you will.
But Bouchard, for real though, on Bouchard, like he closed brilliantly. Obviously, he helped you massively. Is there anything
I already
here?
Have
he is the starting right fielder.
I'm going to give away one jersey at Potapalooza.
Perfect.
For of Sean Bouchard for anybody. I mean, he does make a fair amount of contact in the zone, 90 percentile.
It's a free piece of Colorado, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually don't mind this one. I mean, yeah, he ran a really, really high BABIP, but like it is Colorado, and like even if the BABIP comes down to like 330, like he could hit 250, and I think there's league average power and league average speed. Maybe if he could find plate appearances, maybe he could accumulate. Sure. Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah, like and like, on another personal note, I mean, one, he won me money, which we love. But two, I didn't even realize this, but apparently my mother-in-law's second husband's last name was Bouchard, and so she really doesn't like it when I wear the jersey around, which is a perfect way to get under her skin.
Yeah, reason to keep wearing it, of course.
So, I mean, I hope he breaks out and I can wear that jersey around all the time.
That'd be great. Yeah. So Sean Bouchard on the list. Speaking of guys we can never quit, I finally cut it cold turkey last year, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention the fact you want to talk about another guy whose age might surprise you. Victor Robles is just 27 years old.
I was going to bring him up, and I thought
Garrett Van Riper has totally quit him. He's finally like a couple of weeks ago on one of the Rates and Barrels. He's like, I have moved on from.
I'm with him. I quit him last year too, but I just feel like it's worth bringing up because I don't know, like it was only 126
He's
plate
gonna
appearances
play
last year.
every day.
But he really cut his strikeout rate, and I wonder if there's something there that he could build upon, or if it was just a hot sample, because he did do well, but then the injury, undercut that season. Could there be something there from Victor Robles, and of course the magic age 27 season?
And let's be honest here, like Stone Garrett's coming off of the injury.
Yep.
Like who else are they going to have play center? Like, I mean,
nobody.
I think it's going to be Victor Robles. I don't think they want to roll Joey Gallo in center, and
he can hang there if you needed him to, but he's better on a corner. For sure.
And Robles is a really good defender in center. Mm-hmm. So, I think as long as Robles is healthy, he could get 600 plate appearances, and with 600 plate appearances, he could steal 30 plus bases.
Absolutely. And then Jason Hayward played really well last year, and there is no tax on him.
Yeah.
15 homers, 121 WRC plus. It's got to be in the right scenario because he barely plays. He might just be more of like a DFS guy, but at pick 547, he's still with the Dodgers. Does he intrigue either of y'all, Jason Hayward?
In a DC, I think it makes sense. Maybe NL only.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Can I just do one more? Just
of course.
It's like, it's
I could probably do 10 more, but obviously I want to get y'all back to your families at some point tonight.
Yeah, I got to watch hockey and go get some dinner.
Yeah, my stomach's grumbling. I'm ready to eat too.
So in the vein of Victor Robles, a guy who can play defense, is going to play every day because of that on a bad team, or at least in a bad outfield. Miles Straw could still steal like 40 bases.
You need the steals.
Playing every day. These are the guys that you get to lump into the hey, you can find cheap speed. They come at a deficit in other positions, but
my issue with him was always the high price point. Like when he broke out that one year, then he was way too expensive. Basically where he was where Estuary Ruiz is this year. And that's exactly why I'll never pay for an Estuary Ruiz, because if I do want that dog shit profile, then I'll just take Miles Straw at 661.
I have him at 709.
Oh, yeah, so it's even cheaper now.
Yeah,
I'd be remiss not to mention my boy Akil Baddoo. He did go 11-14 last year. His plate skills are still decent, 25% K, 12% walk. He could be a strong side guy. I still have some love for him. So yeah, I mean, there's just a billion outfielders. Like I said, I could probably name another 4 or 5, but maybe we can go ahead and wrap it up here. Anybody else you guys want to throw a mention out for?
Miles Straw. Oh, Lordy.
Or do we get through? Oh, here's one, just because I could see somebody maybe asking about him because he was on the fantasy landscape last year. Corey Julks do anything last year that keeps you guys interested in him?
Yeah.
He's kind of blocked off at this point.
I think he's blocked off, and I don't think he has so strong.
I got a name that's on here. Miguel Andujar.
Yeah, he's in Pittsburgh, right?
Oakland. He's in Oakland now.
Oakland, that's right. Oakland to Pittsburgh.
Hey, remember when Brent Rooker was signed about this time last year, and what the hell? What are they doing? And then Brent Rooker goes out and does this. Miguel Andujar can never field, but he could hit.
He was a plus bat last year in his small sample, 90 plate appearances.
He has the chance. I just looked over, and he is 2 spots down from Miles Straw.
I like it.
And by the way, Straw is one of 3 guys with at least 20 steals in each of the past 3 seasons, joining Trey Turner, Randy Arozarena, Jose Ramirez, Tommy Edman. So those are the 5 guys that have stolen 20 bases each of the last 3 years.
This guy's not outfield eligible yet, but in the same vein of Miles Straw, apparently Jorge Mateo is going to play some outfield, and he is not very good, but he's also dirt cheap now too. So maybe he's somebody.
I'll throw out another name.
All right, last name here. Make it good.
Last name. All right. So this is a guy who's 30 years old. He's only ever been on a part-time role, and then got injured right when he looked like he could get a full-time role on a new team where he's right now projected to be short side platoon, but the outfield gets injured all the time because the outfield is made up of Harrison Bader and Starling Marte and Brandon Nimmo. Tyrone Taylor. He's got power, speed. He went 9-10 last year and 240 something plate appearances. He could find his way into being useful.
Yep. I think that's a fair call out. We'll go ahead and cap it with Tyrone Taylor. So there you go. Outfield. We did 4 parts. We went deep. I'm sure there's still some names that people said you still didn't get to mention this guy.
We did 2 hours in part 4. So
exactly. So feel free to put it in the comments because we didn't even talk Mike Yastrzemski, who's going to play for your Giants there. But no, we're going to cap it right there. Jason, it was great having you on for the holiday here. Awesome to talk with both of y'all. Are you guys getting together on Sunday?
No, we're recording.
Yeah,
there will be an episode.
Potapalooza is our normal recording time.
Perfect.
I will put out the Potapalooza episode as the episode for Sunday, as well
that
as
sounds fantastic.
Paul's episode that he's going to be doing with Saris.
I cannot wait. I truly.
And then, hey, are all of us going to Tampa?
I'm not going anywhere this season. I'm taking the spring off of travel.
Well, you and I can record from FPass.
Yeah. Oh, you're not even coming to Tout, Paul? No.
Nope. No travel this spring. But I'll be back at it next year. Don't worry. But I'm just taking
that long.
Yeah.
So
I'll be in Arizona.
So
at the end of the year.
I got to wait that long.
Here in
November.
Yeah.
But no, we have the. So next week Potapalooza, and then next Sunday, Justin and I will be in First Pitch, Florida.
Yeah. Excellent.
So our next Sunday recording, normal schedule would be March 8th.
Yeah,
I can't believe it's almost March, guys. Baseball's almost here. It's so awesome.
Spring
training.
Well,
great talking with you guys. Spring training will be starting soon, and we will all do what we do every year, which is care about it for the first 10 minutes of that first game, and then it'll be background noise. But it'll be the best background noise for those late night writing sessions. I know Justin and I love putting on a game and just letting it be the ambient noise as we get through articles. So, all right, I will talk to y'all both later. Have a good one.
See you.
Take it easy.
Yeah, I'm